Hello, it's the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And boy, we're coming at you with some finishing era of the Guardians of the Galaxy, though when this movie does end, it doesn't feel like it's technically finished. It's not like one of those ones where, like, guess what, kids? All your favorite Guardians of the Galaxy kids, they all get space AIDS and die. That's it. It's just how life is. Get used to it. We had to break this new generation in hard.
Don't share needles, kids, even if you get them from a talking raccoon. Actually, especially. No,
Yeah.
It's one of those things where before we go into it, like, let's just get this part out of the way, because we will go into spoilers. Did you overall like it?
I overall liked it. I actually I thought it was pretty solid, and I think one of my main things, because I say this on every Marvel movie, is it's the balance of comedy is almost like what kind of makes or breaks the Marvel movie for me, at least. And I thought this was one of those ones where, like, the comedy was well in check. I mean, you expect a little bit more comedy with Guardians, of course, but I felt like the jokes all generally fit. There never was that time where it's like, oh, dude, come on, who let that get by? Like, that just broke the mood or anything like that. Like, I felt like the pacing was better than at least the second one, where the second one did have some of those moments that felt like that joke should have just not been there. It just wasn't the right place for it.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you pretty much summed up how I feel about a lot of Marvel stuff. I felt a lot of people feel Marvel right now, where the comedy, because at first you were one of the only people that was adamant about how much the comedy got on your nerves. And then in time, you're like, well, it's a comic book thing. You got to kind of ease people into it. But then, like, by the time everyone's already on board, everyone likes it, they're even going harder and harder and harder on the comedy. And by that point, everyone else is like, we fucking get it. We fucking get it. And now I think that now they're like more, because I think Marvel usually is quick to correct, like, after like a couple of movies. I mean, Phase 4 has been kind of lagging a little bit, but I think now they're kind of starting to correct. But anyway, I really liked it. As far as where it stands among the other Guardians, because when I saw the first Guardians, I liked it, but the more I thought about it, it was like I found myself liking it a lot more. It was kind of one of those things where walking out of the theater, like, it was fun. I'm sure, I'm sure it was a fun movie. Then the more I was, actually, it had this going for it, had that going for it, and then I ended up seeing it a second time. It's like, no, that movie was actually really good. I don't know why I was just only kind of liked it the first time, and then the second one, I don't think it's as well made of a movie as the first one, but I kind of like them. I like the story more, if that makes any sense,
No, yeah, I kind of see what you mean by, like, that way too, because that's sort of how I feel almost as well. Like, I think Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is probably in my top 5 of those Marvel, the Marvel Disney version movies, I guess you would say, because it does
MCU.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only one that really, let's be honest, the only one that probably really, like, knocks the boat down or throws in one there is Daredevil Ben Affleck director's cut, because I love that movie so much. But that one there, I think, is one of the top ones. The second one's one of those ones where, yeah, it's really almost just as good, but it just has a couple little hinges in there that I always felt like were just like, they're small. They don't really, it's not like they're like the worst case thing. All you have to do is sort of blink and that scene goes by and you don't have to worry about it. But it's just enough, but it's still damn close. I think it's right there with the first one, And the third one, I think, is about pretty much on board. Like, as I said, like, I don't know, I probably might even like 1 and 2, maybe a little bit more. I've only watched the third one once, of course, but it's still pretty solid.
Yeah, I for me, third one, I don't really have a whole lot of complaints. Like, I'll say this, the movie didn't drag, but the pacing did feel a little off, because there were moments where I thought this is wrapping up, and it kind of did the thing like, no, we got a whole other act you got to go through right here. Like, oh, well, I mean, don't get me wrong, that last act was probably the best part of the movie, but it also, the pacing felt a little off, and I'll say some of the locations they went to weren't as interesting as other Guardians films or other Marvel movies the Guardians happen to be in. But that said, I still found this to be I don't know. I think Rocket, I think it also felt kind of weird, because Rocket is like the best part of this movie. And technically he's like out of the majority of it. And we kind of get our Rocket filler in the flashbacks. But it feels a little weird having them all bounce around without Rocket there. But at the exact same time, I still feel like the movie really works, though.
Yeah, that was one thing I thought too, though. It was kind of strange. It was like, I almost felt like Rocket was going to get healed a little bit earlier in the movie. And so on. It's like, oh, no. They're literally saving that for like almost like Act 4, because This one is long in a sense. It's weird. There's like a handful of these last Marvel movies where they've almost been maybe just like an extra 10 or 20 minutes longer than they probably needed to be. It's not that they're bad. They're still all enjoyable throughout it, but I felt like that was the same way I felt about Black Panther too. Like it felt like it was just, they were trying to all make them like that epic length of like 2.5 hours long when they probably could have been, a solid, just pushing over 2 hours length, even the same with this one here. But it's not like there's like a part where you're like, Jesus, that 20-minute scene where nothing happens. It's not like one of those, but it's just there. But it is kind of weird to not have Rocket, because I feel like Rocket's the most interesting character of the Guardians by far. I like a lot of the other characters too, but I think if you didn't have Rocket in there, like who knows? I feel like that wouldn't just take out like 1/5 of like the movie. That would take out more, like I feel like 60+% of the movie. Like that's how cool that character is.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably, I'd be lying if I said I knew a whole lot about Rocket from the comics, because I never read a Guardians of the Galaxy comic. Mm-hmm. But it's also one of those things, like I like the movie so much, like this movie franchise. That's the thing about Guardians of the Galaxy. Let me just say this about this is a franchise, a film franchise. It was one of those things where I knew initially it takes place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But the first two movies are so separate from everything else, even though there is kind of like, there's sort of the Collector has a cameo in Thor 2. It's felt so separate from everything else that it just felt kind of like this cool new sci-fi film series. I knew that there was a comic based on it, and I knew of Rocket, I knew of Groot. I knew the Guardians is there's a talking raccoon, a tree, and a guy in a mask. That's all I know about it, Mm-hmm. And then, so it's kind of cool just going to this thing, not knowing anything about it. And then hearing and seeing pictures, in this, it's way different. That's way different. So it's kind of like, I'm almost afraid to like read the comics because I don't want it to be ruined for me. To be like, what? They do that in the comics? Oh, that is so much cooler. But regardless, regardless of that, there's something else going with this. Yeah, now that they are more of a bigger part of the overall MCU and they're interacting more with mm-hmm. everything else, I think that it's just one of those things where it seemed to kind of like, how do I put it? Like, it almost seemed to kind of lose a little bit of that kind of identity to me. Kind of like I mean, maybe I know it was always leading to something bigger. It was always leading to Endgame and Infinity War, but it seemed to kind of lose a little bit of like what at least me personally, what I associated that as, which was this cool, oddball space action adventure comedy, but then became more of just like another Marvel franchise,
Yeah, exactly. Which I will say, like, Guardians is one of those ones, in my opinion, could sort of just work as its own solo. It doesn't have to necessarily interact with the MCU. I know this, like, they love everything interacting this day and age, but like I feel like Guardians is almost like that could be landlocked to itself, and I think that would be totally fine. You know what I mean? I think you could just run with it, and there's so much stuff you can tell out there that you would never even. There's no real reason even to connect. I'm not saying it's bad that it connects, but I'm just saying it doesn't need to. That's like how good it is.
Well, I also thought something I like is Rocket is the loud, smart ass character in the first Guardians as well as the second Guardians, but he's very competent. And then by the time you get to Infinity War and Endgame, it's like he almost had both he and Nebula almost had to become more of like more serious. And like mm-hmm. Nebula was always here. That's kind of interesting. They both got this weird trade-off. Like Rocket became way more of like, okay, I got to kind of hold shit down. Thor is an alcoholic and he's like, he put on 100 pounds. I'm the fucking raccoon and I got to be the one to kind of like step in and tell people how to do things, And mm-hmm. then like even Nebula, who started off the first movie, she just kind of like mean mugging the whole time and talking in a low voice, and we kind of get hints of there's something a little bit more there in the first one. But as the series goes on, how she almost develops more than almost any other character.
Yeah, no, I like Nebula. The farther that character kind of goes on, I'm like, that's actually a really cool character, and I'm kind of glad that she has much bigger parts as like the time has gone on.
Yeah, like I think that she and Rocket are like two of the best parts of Endgame, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely there, and just giving them all these kind of character places to keep moving on and to hold things down, and how Rocket, does have to take like things before he just does like, I go where I want to go. You know, he almost has that Wolverine personality to the fact that like, this is my fucking family now. You know, this is my raccoon patrol.
Well, he also does the thing though, because he's really smart, but then he's just dumb, like in some ways too. Like he doesn't realize, like, oh shit, was I winking with the wrong side of my face? You know, when he talks shit to the gold people in the second movie or whatever.
Yeah, he doesn't get some things.
Or like, you know, he just like, you know, he's just kind of known. But then like, it's so interesting because did you ever watch because I know you're not like a big TV guy, but did you by chance watch the Christmas special on Disney Plus?
No, I didn't even know there was a Christmas special.
Yeah, so there was a Guardians of the Galaxy.
Is this supposed to be like a joke on the Star Wars Christmas special?
Yeah, it is. Well, it's not that exactly. They don't have like Jefferson Airplane coming in and or someone jerking off in the living room while like, you know, stormtroopers like raiding the house or nothing like that. You know,
and then Carrie Fisher just comes on out and decides she's gonna sing a Christmas Star Wars song at the end.
And everyone's just looking around like, is this in the fucking scripts? Like, there's a script. I don't even know that. No one gave me a fucking script.
Like Harrison Ford going like, there's no fucking script. George just scribbled something on a napkin and said, you TV guys figure it out.
We're here to get pre-orders for a Boba Fett action figure, okay?
Luke's I got mine.
No, so it basically there's a Christmas special. It's like only like 40 minutes long or so. It was on Disney Plus, and it's very comical. It's very comic forward, and they actually Kevin Bacon's in it, and it basically what happens is,
you know, I guess that makes way more sense because I remember when the credits were rolling, I'm like, what the hell is that Kevin Bacon up there?
Yeah,
that was the one thing I thought. I was like, why is Kevin Bacon up in there? What movie was he in?
So what happens is Peter, because it gives more setup. So basically they went to Nowhere and it got across that they were treating Nowhere as this hub for people that were like lost their homes or had nowhere to go after the blip. And the Guardians are helping kind of maintain and manage everything. And that's where Cosmo, the dog, was there. Kraglin was there, more members of the Guardians by that point. And Peter was drinking, not feeling so good because he was still down about Nebula. And somehow Mantis figured out that she and Peter are actually half siblings. That she is also the daughter of Ego. So, and she's like, she wants to make Peter happy for Christmas. So they said, he's always talking about how he idolizes some great warrior called Kevin Bacon. He's on Earth, you know. So they go to Drax and Mantis go to Earth to basically kidnap Kevin Bacon. It's a whole kind of funny. It is a very slapsticky but you know what you're getting into.
Yeah. As I say, that one feels like that's like you already know what it is. It's not, you know, it says Christmas special like.
Yeah.
So their arms crossed like this should have been serious. You know what I mean? Like Jesus is serious. This should be serious.
Yeah. This is the one where they go extra hard. No. So they go up there. So they bring him back, and it is kind of a funny thing because, like, you know, she does the whole like touch thing to make Kevin Bacon. He's like, "What's going on? I have no idea. Why are you kidnapping me?" You know, and they do the like touch thing to him, and you know. And they're like, "Oh, he's an actor." They just suddenly hate actors. Like, why is he like an actor? What is wrong with Earth people? Why do they like actors so much?
Is it like does it go like Galaxy Quest where then he ends up saving the day? Like,
not that they get him. You know, they decide to put on a big Christmas party to make Peter happy, and they surprise him, and they get a box. And then Kevin Bacon's like, "Hey, man, Merry Christmas!" Like, did you guys kidnap Kevin Bacon? Like, no, look, he's happy to be here. Like. Nebula, Mantis, take your powers off him, and then like she unzaps him, and he says, "What the fuck's going on?" He doesn't say "fuck," but he's all freaking out, and he's all like, you know. And then they work it out. They have a nice moment, and then you know, everything ends up being happy and funny in the end. But the big thing that happens in that is we realize that Mantis and Peter are siblings to Ego, and they started moving operations to Nowhere. So that's why everyone's hanging out there.
Okay. See, I think that's the only thing that's kind of a little bit kind of confusing nowadays is like when you go to watch the Marvel movies, there's always like this like percentage of like material that's like, oh, you didn't see this? Well, it's probably gonna be slightly confusing. Or you're just gonna be like, huh, oh, okay, carry on. Because I noticed that's literally, I was like Doctor Strange, I remember was the one, like, or Doctor Strange 2 was the one where there was just if you didn't see that WandaVision, there was parts where you're just sitting there like, well, that's weird. Oh, okay. You sort of piece it together, but like you still feel like you feel like there's definitely something you missed out on. Like they're not made like how they used to be, where like they're like, okay, we'll keep it where they interconnect, but not so much so that you have to sort of kind of keep up with everything.
They might have a line that references something from a previous movie, but you didn't have to see it. But now it's like, you haven't been keeping up. Fuck you. We're still going. Yeah. So I guess going into spoilers towards this thing. Yeah, I don't know where it stands for me. I need to see it again. But I definitely like it a lot. I don't know if I like it more than the first two, but I like Rocket's story. I think everything with Rocket is probably some of the best stuff, not in just Guardians, but the MCU altogether.
Yeah, no, that stuff's kind of good to see, like why he's so pissed at like his makers and so on like that. It kind of gives real good reason, why he's in this, like, in a sense, experimental torture chamber and with all these other animals that are being put together as cyborgs and what have you. Like literally, it sounds weird, but like it's almost like the equivalent of like a dark Mobius of Sonic the Hedgehog. That's like almost like how it feels, like especially like the Sonic the 1993 show. Like that's sort of how it feels. Is like make it just like a little bit more darker, and that's what you sort of got, because you got all these animals walking around with like robot arms and blasters attached to them and wheels and so on like that, but it's not really funny.
Well, it also adds like, well, because when you first see, I remember when like people saw a trailer to like Guardians of the Galaxy, some people were excited. They'd be like, is that a fucking raccoon with a gun? Is that what they're doing with this shit now? And then sure enough, people really liked the movie. And then you kind of see, oh, this is what you do to make a rocket, to make a raccoon with a gun. And you kind of see, the opening shot of the movie is just a little baby rocket being reached in, looking scared as hell. And then you see the aftermath, and you see like the details they went into, where he has like these weird metal braces that protrude out of his chest and kind of like hold him in a certain position. You saw like on his little paws that they actually added like robotic like attachments that eventually his skin and fur apparently grew over, but we saw that so his hands can do things that they couldn't do before. And I think one of the things about the whole Rocket backstory that made it so fucked up is the Rocket and the other animals. If you just kind of like, if you close your eyes and just hear what they're saying, you could be watching like a very tame G-rated film, but then you open your eyes and you see, because they're all talking like, oh gee, they have cute silly voices and shit,
because they're all like kids. They're all child soldiers in a sense. Yeah.
They're all children basically. And then you open your eyes and you see they all have like, they're cute animals, but there's the rabbit with no limbs that has the weird attachments that make it walk, and it has something over its mouth. There's like the walrus has those weird attachments that make his eyes go up and down, and Rocket looks okay compared to the rest of them.
Compared to him, he got off better than everybody else. Everybody else was like the bad experiment gone wrong.
And then you see how everyone else looks, and you see in their setting, you're like, they're not in this later. This is a flashback. This shit's not going to go good. And you see how like, so it's one of those things where it's just like that adds so much level of like, this is so fucked up,
It's like they literally let Sid from Toy Story come in to like do some animal manipulation. That's literally what I started thinking when I saw that. I was like, that's almost what it feels like here.
If the whatchamacallit,
I mean, that dude really did like Earth a lot, so I wouldn't be out of the question that he would have abducted Sid.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, teach me your ways, child. Something about this white trash boy.
In suburban
I could learn from him.
Yeah, one of those ones like there.
Like that part really, all that shit was one of the things I thought was the most. I think it's one of the best scenes, and also how do I put it? I hope I'm not over analyzing this, but there's the rabbit, Floor. There's the rabbit. And when shit goes bad and they're trying to get out of there, because one of the things, Floor is probably the cutest voice, like the most kind of cartoony, bubbly voice, but at the same time has like bad, like almost childlike grammar, can barely string a sentence together. And then when they're leaving and things start to go bad, Floor keeps on repeating the same line, just says their names, go now, like rocket floor, Teefs go now, rocket floor, Teefs go now, just saying it really rapid like that. And I think there's just something so like kind of haunting and fucked up about that because, at least for me, because the idea it's like it's not smart enough to say what it wants to say, but you could just tell that it's just saying the same line over and over and over. That is like it knows it's about to fucking die. It knows they're all about to die, and they gotta get the fuck out of it. Like there was something about that part that really just like kind of not haunted might be too strong a word, but you know.
Well, I think it's that point where, like, no matter what, they were never going to make it out of there because I think that, like, even if they made it the rocket and got out, the other three were just their time was already coming to an end. Like they were just not going to survive the treatment. See, Rocket was the one advanced kind of like creature in there, you know. And that was what made him sort of different. Where I felt the other ones were all kind of like they were experiments, and they were to get to the point because everything in this movie is just like it's the experiment to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. You know, it's that thing where like the guy really wants to do good, but he has to do a lot of bad to get there, and that's how he views it in a sense. Like in his ideal mind, he's not trying to be the worst guy on the face of the galaxy, though, you know, he pretty much is. It's like he's really trying to do something right, but it's almost like that thing. It's like, dude, you know, it's just not working out. Let's be honest.
It's that whole thing of like, well, it's also a level of like
that ultimate perfectionist thing that you can't ever achieve perfection technically, but some people will try so damn hard to.
No one can ever. Well, something that kind of goes through, I think, at least. I'm not sure about the first one. I got to think about it, but maybe the first one to some extent. But definitely the second and third one is Ego. I mean, the villain of the second one is literally named Ego. It's about, you know, I mean, it's not about conquering ego in the third one. It's about, it's more about, you know, I guess getting over your own, you know, grief and own failures to move forward. Because Rocket really is, even though he's absent for a good portion of it, he really is the main character of this film.
Yeah, because he is, because of like almost like the flashbacks and the tie-ins to everything. Like really, without Rocket, there's no reason for them to do what they're doing. But it is kind of like hey, the rest of the Guardians got to go out. We got to save Rocket. We got to get him back. That's the whole goal there. You know, we work as a team, and you know that's it. Where of course, you know, Gamora's like, fuck that raccoon, just leave him there. I ain't saving him. I ain't going out of the way for that thing.
Well, I guess because you know the second one, because you know Stallone and those Ravengers, apparently they're like the original Guardians of the Galaxy or members of the original Guardians of the Galaxy, because it was a weird little comic that a lot of people didn't read. And then Brian Michael Bendis, I think it was Brian Michael Bendis, hopped on it and made the team we think of and know of as Guardians. And that's what the movie is mostly going off of. So I thought that the after that teaser in the second Guardians, I thought that they were going to be the original team was going to play more of a relevant part with Stallone and there's the snake guy who makes Doctor Strange circles and shit.
Yeah.
But then I was like, they're not doing. They're just kind of there. Like, oh, it is what it is. Nothing I'm going to lose sleep over. Because
I will say Stallone is very underutilized in this movie. Like he almost doesn't even have to even be in it. I hate to sort of say it because I love Stallone, but like he's there to say like 5 lines and to be Stallone. That's literally it. Like I felt like that they're just like, we just want Stallone to be in here just for a moment. Like
he probably his moment was more relevant like in the second one where he had a moment with like Yondu and they kind of had that back and forth, and we see how Yondu was kind of expelled from the Ravengers because he broke the code. We learned out why and everything. So he was just kind of more of like a hangover, but I thought they would do more with them. But I guess that's where Gamora's been. But I appreciate the movie also had the balls to say, yeah, you're not always going to get the girl, even if it's the same girl with the whole time travel thing.
Yeah, because, you know, she's the one who got kind of jacked up when everything goes back. I'm also at the point where Star-Lord's like, you know what, fuck it, Thanos, give it. We need to get him back and reverse everything. Where's Flash at? Run back in time and fix this. That's wrong series. That's okay. It's multi-dimensional thing. We'll figure it out.
There's been crossovers. We've seen them. We've heard of them. You know.
Yeah. You know, I mean, they've been on nerd boxes. I can show you how this exists.
Fucking, there's a Howard. What was it? There was like Punisher, like.
Was it Punisher or Batman?
Punisher, Batman. There's Punisher, Batman, and then like Bruce Wayne, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, so there's weird shit. I don't even remember what I remember. I think I don't even remember what there's like Wolverine mashed up with a really weird one. I don't remember who, but yeah, it was something very weird.
I just remember there was the one that, because I have a bunch of the cards of it because they came off the back of nerd boxes from like 1995.
Lobo the Duck. That was
and you collected them all, and then you could like stack them out and so on like that. I want to say, and then there was a comic book series that went on. But I remember the battles were like, there's the ones that's like, okay, that makes kind of sense, and then there's ones that were like really bizarre choices, like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. There's Lobo the Duck instead of Howard the Duck.
Yeah, you get some weird stuff like that too, where they do the fusion dance, and get there. But yeah, like I think it is kind of interesting that the Gamora thing that never doesn't really come around, and so and then there's almost like that weird part with like the Nebula thing. I'm like, yeah, maybe Pierce should just go after Nebula. Why not? You know what I mean?
Well, I even kind of like how quickly he's easy to like kind of switch over. Like, this is that part where she says, look, whoever you're interested in, it sounds more like her. And then they're both laugh it off. And he just seriously just stares at her.
Like, taking it into consideration. Like, I never thought about that.
He's just like, maybe, she's like, fuck you. No. Yeah, I was never into bald chicks before. Maybe I am though. I don't know. Shit.
I go for the punk rock thing.
Yeah. I like Tank Girl. Yeah, I can go with this. There is like, what was the other bit from that? I thought the whole part when they're in the elevator, because we were just going with the comedy, and this is a case where maybe I didn't laugh at every joke, but there's no like moment.
There's no bad joke, I guess, where you're like, oh Jesus, are you kidding me? Like that, like there's no fourth wall breaking where it takes you like where you feel like you're in a slapstick film. Like it's almost like one of the scary movie type jokes, and you're like, oh Jesus Christ, you went to that level now.
Yeah, it doesn't do that. There is the part where I thought that was kind of funny where, because every so often, the MCU films, they do the thing where they talk about like what happened previously in a way where it's kind of like someone who has been watching the movies kind of gets them caught up, kind of like that whole conversation between the three Spider-Men and No Way Home, how it's almost kind of like, oh, you've been watching these movies? Okay, well, here's kind of what happened. They just have a funny conversation in that way, I felt like the part when they're in the elevator, he says like, funny fact, we actually dated, but then she died. Why? Her dad threw her off a magical space cliff. A bunch of people came back. She didn't for some reason. I don't know why. I didn't make the rules. I'm not, just like agitate. Like there's just something about that part. They're just like, like this also breaks the first MCU record of dropping the first saying fuck for the first time.
And they did it in a weird place, I thought. Like, because I somehow that was one of those random ones where like I ran across that like right when I like opened my web browser, it was like, oh, the first MCU F-bomb is. So I kind of knew that it was going to come somewhere. And what I really thought it was going to be was the part where like Gamora's walking out and she's like, screw you. And then I thought she was going to walk and go, no, fuck you. Like that's where I thought it was going to be, because it felt like it was building up to that. And then she said, screw you again. And I was like, huh. That's weird. And then like it's like they say it like when he's in the car, and I was like, that was a random place to put that in. Like it was like such an unnecessary, like, you know what I mean? I thought it was gonna be a place where you're like, yeah, that makes sense. There it just felt like we need to fit this in. We don't know where else to do it. Like do it with the car scene. Just push the fucking button.
Well, I just thought it was funny just because, he's in a rush. He wants to hurry up and get there. And then they get to the door and then she's having trouble because, just like, it takes way long. That scene takes a minute. And then she's like, now what? Open the fucking door. It felt so sincere. So...
I mean, maybe that's part of it. It was just like it was a funny place to use it at, instead of using it like where I guess you would probably get the most impact. You got it just more as like a joke kind of thing.
Well, here's another thing, and I might be looking too much into this, but I'm thinking about like because MCU they work in steps, really, when you think about it. There was that period where just kind of like they only really popped, like, there's just like, okay, the movies were coming out, and then we had Avengers, and then maybe there's like and then like Avengers happens, and then we're getting up to let's say Ant-Man, mm-hmm. and then very casually Falcon fights off against Ant-Man. Like, whoa. I wasn't expecting to see like two superheroes in one movie like this, Mm-hmm. And then from there we get to Captain America, Civil War. And then like, it's basically a whole like other Avengers movie minus Hulk and Thor.
Yeah.
And then it became very common for a character to like, it didn't happen every movie, but it became common for like, this isn't this character's franchise, but this character can pop up in this film, you know? Maybe this fuck bomb is that leading us up to the R-rated movies. I got a feeling, because I feel like they've been kind of like, there are steady steps like that. And I mean, I know I'm just bringing up more like franchise narrative things, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're treating like R-rated stuff the same way.
Well, I hate to always say it, like, there's always that business view. I feel like there's like, there's the level of like straight the entertainment part that the average person only sees. But as you kind of get through, there's the different deeper layers. And there's always like the business tactics that they have to implement, It's the equivalent of like DC always doing the thing where a lot of times there's these lead ups to these other characters. They throw them in a video game, they throw them in an animated movie, they throw them in that. Boom, there's a movie. We at least kind of got it out there, got the word out, and so on. I can kind of see that, like, it's like the testing the waters. If you can get away with it in Guardians of the Galaxy, what can you do next? It's one of those things.
I don't know how far off Deadpool 3 is, but Deadpool 3 they said will be rated R, and Blade will be rated R possibly. So they're already. I think they're all right. Well, we got to rip this Band-Aid sooner or later.
Well, hopefully it's getting back. We're getting back to hopefully, I guess, as like the 2020s go on, we'll actually get more into a darker edge time. Not like, but I mean, like, because that the 2010s was like it was almost one of those light eras. Movies and entertainment always shift where they go through waves. Because really, like the 2000s was the one where like we got some pretty violent and bloody stuff, and movies kind of did push the envelope and all that kind of stuff. And then it was almost like then there was like the pullback in like the 2010s, like whoa, well, let's ease it off a bit. So hopefully we'll be going into another one where it's like, no, people don't care. Like, just go with whatever you want,
I feel
go hard.
It comes in waves. And I think this movie definitely, I could see this movie almost coming back like once or twice with an R rating. Like, all right, we got to trim some of this shit down. Cause the idea of I know we mostly been focusing on Rocket, but really what they put him through in this film, and even that scene where he just like, where his friends die in the lab.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and his reaction is he screams like he can't comprehend what he just saw.
Yeah.
And then like he picks up the gun and starts killing like everyone he sees in his room and like in the room, and then just like goes to town on the High Evolutionary's face. And then later you realize what he's been wearing the whole time is a mask. He peels it off. I'm like, his face, I'm surprised that got PG-13 when you see what his face really looks like.
Maybe that's the classic thing. The F-bomb was to make him look this direction while you pull the mask off over here. Because that's always like, it's like the South Park thing. You throw something over here so they're more focused on this so that you could do something more extreme over here.
Well, there was like there was stuff in the Batman animated series they would do like that. Like they use the South Park would use I don't know which one who did it first. I guess probably actually Batman animated.
Obviously, Batman's way earlier than South Park, but
yeah, I don't know why I drew a blank on that. Yeah, Batman. They had like a bit where like in the script where Harley Quinn pushed in like a baby carriage. It was like, lunchtime, boys, and you just see like a bunch of hyenas eating out of a baby carriage, so like okay, cool, that now we can get away with like Tim Drake's family dying, just something kind of like that.
Yeah, you have those sort of sacrifice ones. Well, did you ever play the Guardians of the Galaxy video game that came out a couple years ago?
No, I wanted to. I heard it was
That's
good.
one of those I thought it was extremely good. And the take that they have on kind of the Guardians characters, I thought was awesome. And it's one of those ones you probably could pick it up for next to nothing, though I also want to say it's on PlayStation Plus nowadays too, so you can get it there. And you can play it on PS4. That's what I played it on anyways. You don't have to have anything new for it since it was like still at that time period. But that one had such a cool take on all those characters and whatnot. The music was badass in it too, because the music was all heavy metal themed, which I thought I liked it even more because it was like, oh my gosh, you're gonna have like when you have Kiss and Iron Maiden and all this kind of stuff in here, and like a bunch of cool Motley Crue and all this stuff. I'm like, oh, I was already so hardcore sold on that, But the thing was interesting is when I was playing that game, they were using that. When like in the old comics where they say like flack instead of fuck, but like when a lot of the characters say it, it doesn't always sound like flack. It just sounds like fuck. And I was like, because it would just kind of come up and be like, did Rocket just say fuck in this game? Like, you look at it
real quick.
It says teen, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? And then they were saying it like so often in there after a while that you're like, and let's be honest, like, I don't even if you say flag, it's kind of like the censor thing. We all know what they're saying. Like that doesn't. It's like, what does that really mean when you censor something? It like literally is the same exact thing. Like in your mind, it translates instantaneously. But that one was pretty much they're just saying fuck pretty much like every like other word in that game the whole time, which is kind of ballsy in the sense to have the whole way through. So that's almost like a good example of like what that rated R Guardians of the Galaxy would be like, is that video game.
Yeah, well, I need to check that game out.
I've also said this because you can get it for like next to nothing now, or get it on PlayStation Plus. Like, go out of your way and try it. It's not that long of a game. I thought it was super fun the whole way through. I think the take that they had on Guardians, I liked almost even more than the movie versions.
Mm-hmm. Well, even like because you mentioned the music in that had more, you said, more heavy metal emphasis. I'm kind of, even though I liked all the weird like 70s and 80s pop they'd have with a little bit of classic rock in there, I appreciate this one started just like, all right, let's mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, I did like that too. I mean, it does have that thing where like sometimes there's almost like a little too much music. Like I feel like they just put music in places just because that's what Guardians are so associated with. Like almost that we need to sell a soundtrack kind of thing. Like it's just like, we got a space here. We're in space for a second. Yeah, you got 25 seconds. Throw a song in there. Like there's almost sometimes that where they don't feel like they have the impact that they necessarily had like in the first two movies. Now they just feel like they're almost a little bit shoehorned in there. It's not the worst, but it more feels, instead of feeling like, hey, there's just a cool song that goes along with the scene, it feels kind of like there's just somebody said put a song there.
Depending on the song, yeah, there would be, because I thought that was interesting that the because the first Guardians opens up with Redbone and he's all like dancing to it, and it's fun. It's letting you know what you're in for. The second Guardians opens up with Electric Light Orchestra and
Mr. Blue Sky.
Mr. Blue Sky, and then this one opens up with the acoustic version of Creep, and no one's dancing around. There's no action scene or anything. It's just Rocket kind of in his own head, and he's just kind of walking around, checking things out around nowhere, making sure everything's running okay. And he's kind of having to pick up the pieces and be the responsible. We're used to seeing him being the smart ass shit talker, which he still is that to some extent, but he's a little bit more of like making sure everything's just running right. And because he has to pick up the pieces because Peter is like just getting shit faced all the time in his own depression. And how it's just this movie, how it just opens up. You don't think Guardians of the Galaxy is going to open up with Creep by Radiohead. Yeah. And he's just walking around like, hey, yeah, just seeing everything, not that much funny stuff is happening in the background.
No, yeah, it definitely is kind of an interesting way to sort of go about it. And the songs they pick, it's another good soundtrack and everything throughout it, and the kind of mixed match of genres and so on. I did feel like at the very end when they picked like the 2000 songs, like, okay, whoa, you're going a little bit farther now, but back it up to at least the 90s, 2000s, like practically. Now you're just getting to practically modern music. Put that Bruce Springsteen song that was in the credits. Put that replace that song with that.
I didn't mind the Florence and the Machine song. But actually, now that you say that, I would have liked to hear Badlands there at the end.
Oh yeah, because I thought the credits. I'm like, oh sweet, Bruce Springsteen. Why is this like the second song of the credits?
Yeah, because Badlands isn't just like one of my favorite Springsteen songs. It's one of my favorite songs. So when I'm not gonna lie, I kind of cheated and I just looked at the soundtrack. Like I just see, who's in this? Because then it's just kind of fun to look at it and figure out where the music's gonna be. I'm like, oh, Badlands is gonna be in this. That's got to be an emotional scene wherever Badlands pops in. And like, oh, it's the second song in the credits. It's kind of like when you saw like Father and Son was going to be on second Guardians. Like, oh man, this is going to be a fucking tear jerking scene. This is going to be a really sad scene when Father and Son plays. And then like it is, and you say, what's Badlands going to be? Like, oh, okay. There's Kevin Bacon from the Christmas special. Okay.
Yeah. As I thought, I was like, oh, okay. As I said, the 2000s one was, I just felt like, we have enough movies that have that kind of music in it. Let's just keep the Guardians at least somewhat themed. Like, I don't care what it is. Like, I like the idea that like no matter what, it should still be like give or take like Peter's music collection. As I said, I go back to the game because what the game sort of does is it's like, okay, here's Peter's music collection, but here's his 70s and 80s like heavy metal like stuff. So Aerosmith, Black Sabbath, Anvil, except all those kind of bands. And I just thought that I'm like, there's other music in there too, but like it has like, you know, half the soundtrack is literally like hard rock, heavy metal themed. And I just was like, that's kind of cool because it just adds a whole other dimension to it and so on like that. And literally like when they have flashbacks of Peter, it's like shows him in his room and he's got like a heavy metal vest on with like the patches and like the cut off sleeves. And he's got kind of like the long hair, like slightly mullet kind of look thing going of like 1981, like all like he's just about to go to see a Judas Priest concert or something.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's a little bit more in that. Yeah. I guess the only connection is like, because that was also popping up at the time when there's a lot of like 80s nostalgia constantly. And it's just like, no, I like, you know, no, I get 80s nostalgia, 90s. I mean, look at my room, like the office right here. You can kind of see all this shit. But at the exact same time, it's like, I get it. But I did enjoy a majority of the music choices. They did seem to still focus mostly 70s and 80s, but didn't really like, it wasn't just that. But I will say like, I like the song In the Meantime by Space Hog, but that part where they're just in the brightly colored suits, just jumping down to like the planet with pubes sticking out of it or whatever. Like that was a little bit like,
or you're just Drax gets stuck in a butthole.
Yeah. You're just trying to make it look like a music video right now. Cause I was getting just kind of music video vibes from that, but I'll say this, that whole part where they go to the, where everything is organic and all that, to that facility. I like that scene, and a lot of the funniest bits from the movie come from that scene. But if there is something you could probably trim, you could probably make some of the stuff in that part of the movie a little quicker. I think that's the movie. It doesn't. I'm not going to say it necessarily lags because there's no moment I was bored, but I guess that's kind of where I don't know. I guess because there's a lot of funny stuff in there, but that was just one of those areas where I feel like if there's anything that used probably a little bit of trimming, I guess it was that. Give or take. Yeah,
it's one of those ones. It is weird because it's like it's got Nathan Fillion in there, but he's kind of another underused sort of. It's like because I saw him pop on the credits, I'm like, oh sweet, Nathan Fillion, and then he's kind of just there to be in a goofy, little kind of mob suit, kind of I don't know what it is like. Looks like some kind of bacteria thing armor he's wearing, and it's one of those ones where it's just like God. It's like because that guy's such a great actor, and I've always felt like he's always kind of got the shaft. He's never been allowed to be just like a starring role character beyond like a TV show, or an animated thing. I mean, he's in video games and all that stuff. He's there and he's awesome. And I still think it's like one of those ones, even though he's older, I'm looking at him the whole time. I'm like, dude, he still should just be Green Lantern. Like, I don't care. Just make an old. I think it would be cool just to have an older Green Lantern and just have Nathan Fillion play it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was double checking something because I overheard, because I think that character's name was Max, and I was just double checking something, and nope, not the case. Okay. So here's actually a funny thing. Now that you mentioned Nathan Fillion, I might be mixing things here, but originally there was going to be somehow Nathan Fillion was going to be playing Wonder Man in Guardians 2. And there's going to be like in Wonder Man, aside from being a superhero, he's also an actor. So there's something that was going to happen to where, because there's like photos, like just kind of teaser photos, but then these are scenes that never got used. I don't know if they're on the DVD or the Blu-ray. I don't remember seeing them or checking them out. But apparently all the shit that happened with like that seed ego planted, and there was like it behind like a Dairy Queen. Originally, I guess that was going to be in a movie premiere to a Tony Stark movie where Nathan Fillion's character was the star of the movie. And just because the name of the Simon whatever was the name on the poster for Stark. So there's apparently all these like, he was going to be like technically Wonder Man in the MCU, but I guess that scene got cut or something happened. So,
yeah, Wonder Man just got put on the. He's always sort of the forgotten.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's just such a bummer because it's like that guy's. It's like I feel like he just gets older and older, and it's like he's like Lucy Lawless. Lucy Lawless is another one too. Who was like amazing actress that like. Of course, Xena and all that stuff, but it was like felt like there's so many times where it's like she should have been Wonder Woman like in the 2000s. You know what I mean? Like, what the heck did you like not do that for? Even literally in like the last Wonder Woman movies, like she should have still been Wonder Woman. Like, it's just like I feel like these TV, in a sense, I guess, because they're TV actors, they're not real actors according to like Hollywood. So there's that weird thing where it's like no, they'll just get sideline roles.
One I hope because Nathan Fillion finds his way into anything that James Gunn makes. So when they do the Green Lantern show, and hopefully there'll be crossovers with the movie, hopefully it's kind of like, okay, here is John Stewart. He is the new Lantern, and he's pretty good. He's upcoming, but his partner is a guy who's been at a minute, Hal Jordan, played by Nathan Fillion. I like
that's 100% the way I think. Because as I said, watch him in this movie. I'm like, dude, even if he's older, like that would be the perfect way to go about it. Like have him just be the guy. He's already been at it for years, you know. Because especially like one of those ones, like you can just do the thing like Hal Jordan. He left Earth one day and never came back. You know what I mean? And now he's coming back after 20 years. You know, one of those kind of things. Like he's just been out spacing it, and now he comes back to Earth. You know, he's protecting the Earth, but like he protects it so that nobody on Earth knows that he's protecting it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have the guy who still has like a lot of family and a lot of care for Earth, and you got the guy who never wants to go back to Earth. You know, that duality thing. But
like he doesn't need to necessarily go back, and that's why he just has to be older and experienced and so on.
Mm-hmm. But like, yeah, but no, I thought even though he was still somewhat, he had a lot of his character, because like there's something funny about like how there's the one guy in his squad that he's always just talking shit to. And like he just looks for anything to try and bring that guy down. And then he turns, like when he's talking to the lady who made Adam Warlock, says, "You got an idiot on your team. I get it. I mean, I got this guy over here. This guy, I'm so proud of him. He's so good. He's come a long way. I'm really proud of what you're doing. But this guy over here, he's like, fuck, every day. I
think that's like, that's not what you said earlier."
Yeah, like he just kind of like, because he's like, it's so, I don't know, just turn another guy. Like, I'm so proud of this guy. I love this guy. This guy here, though, just, it's like, and the guy's just like, what'd I do?
Like he's just trying to be that. Like there's that part too where like Dave Fillion explains something and he's like, like one of those capacitors on a thing like that. He's like, oh yeah, man, I know what you mean. Like what you do when you like someone's trying to tell you stuff about something you don't know. He's like, I just made that up, fucking idiot.
Well, I mean, I thought you said something else.
he's like he lived that thing. He's just trying to fit in. I felt bad for that guy.
I did too. No, like that whole like that, like I think a lot of the funniest parts of the movie came from that scene, that area of the that location they're at. But even the whole part where like, even though it was still kind of like, kind of a little silly, I just still found it funny, which is the part where like they like Mantis throws the clothes into the thing, and you see the spacesuits go by out there in space. Like, oh shit, I mean, that's kind of MCU-esque comedy, but I still thought it was.
But that's not slapsticky though. That's like something that like you would do. You think it's a bit because you're on a spaceship, and then you realize like, oh no, that's just an ejection pod.
Yeah. No, another thing I was actually surprised how hard they went on is when they land on the experimental planet and they get there. I was like, okay, they're going to load a bunch of people into the ship and get out of there, right? Like, no, that whole planet fucking dies. That little girl, like Drax bounced the ball out of her fucking face with, she's fucking dead.
Yeah. I will say Drax has a lot of actually really good moments. We haven't even brought him up, but there's some just great scenes. Like I even like when they're at they show up on that planet, they go to that house, and Drax just finds a couch and just like puts his feet up, lays back. He's like, dude, that's not what it's for. It's like, what do you mean? It's multi-purpose.
It's a very confusing design. It just keeps on laying down.
Because it's one of those ones like Drax and Dave Bautista, like that is just like a great character no matter what all around, and even his kind of whole like I guess arc throughout the whole thing is just one of those ones like they make him out like he is the idiot guy, but then at the end of the day it's like no, he's not Drax the Destroyer, he's Drax the father figure to many children.
Yeah. Well, something about this movie that I just popped in my head, and it's going to sound kind of weird, but it's kind of like Toy Story 4 in a particular way.
Yeah.
In the way of like, this is what I've been doing for a long time, and this is what I'm good at, but maybe I'm ready for something new. Because that's kind of where everyone goes at the end. It's not one of those things of like, because for a minute, like everyone's just like, I bet one of the Guardians is going to die. I bet one of the Guardians is going to die. And then I'm watching it, and I'm like, before I saw the movie, I was like, well, it makes sense if somebody was going to die by the end of this. And then I'm watching it, I'm like, I feel like the only person they're setting up to die would be Rocket. and you don't want to see Rocket die because he already went through all this shit. And then the movie ends like, oh, they're all just kind of going off in their own separate directions. And that's, I still think, fitting. And it kind of leaves things open in a way where I don't know if we're going to get more Guardians movies, but it wouldn't be hard if like the new Guardians led by Rocket would pop up in like side characters in another movie down the line.
Yeah, well, because that's the thing is that like I felt like it was going to have like sort of like some kind of slightly definitive ending. No, I didn't think like I thought that actually if there was going to be a character this guy, it was going to be Peter Quill. I thought he was the one that would die because in a sense, all the other characters sort of like I feel you could kind of carry them on other stuff, but it feels like we got to get rid of the guy who costs the most amount of money and like sort of like once again, like I always think business wise, how do you do that? Rocket Raccoon, we could have him go forever. He's CG, you know what I mean? He's not a real human. You know, you could even just always put another voice over him, and generally the average person wouldn't even notice. So like, I felt like that one was pretty safe and so on like that. But I actually kind of like the way they went because it's like it almost leaves off that like, oh yeah, we could literally do a Guardians 4. Like we're just it's almost like we're just taking a break, And then even that new team with Rocket, I was like, I would see a movie if there was a movie and it was like all those characters, where you got like Adam Warlock in there, and you got the
Kraglin.
Kraglin, all that. And then they even got the little white-haired girl that like Drax saves, which I'm not sure 100% who that is, but whatever that is, that team right there looked pretty sweet.
Yeah, but here's the thing: I don't think they would make that movie with those characters because you don't have like a no offense to Sean Gunn, but you don't have like a real like good-looking leading like man or woman on that team. Well, I mean, you got Adam Warlock, but regardless, he's all like makeup.
He's gold.
He's gold. Yeah. So gold racism, So it's one of those things where I don't think they would do that with that team. I think that's a team we're going to see that pop up like in spin-off shows and other movies that help someone out. But I don't think they're going to like, here's a bunch of CG characters, Sean Gunn and Adam Warlock and a little girl.
This sounds so weird. Speaking of the gold thing, does Adam Warlock and his sister or whatever give you that kind of weird vibes that like when you see them on screen because they're so golden, it makes me slightly kind of gives me a nauseous feeling. I don't know why. Just like it's almost like too much gold, and I just kind of felt like almost like I know they're designed to be pretty, but I'm like I feel like it gives me like the opposite feeling. I don't like they're almost like sickly or something like that.
The gold people in the first one, there's just something like, even though they're all meant to be good looking people, they're so shiny and plasticky almost. There was just something about them that was off-putting. And I think that's meant to be like that. I think they're meant to be the living embodiment of Uncanny Valley.
Yes, yeah, because that's how it is. Like it makes my stomach slightly turn, especially like when I'd see like Adam Warlock's sister. I don't know why. Like when I'd see
his mother, technically.
Or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah. Technically, according to issue 63, printed in 1974.
It'd be like Valerian. Remember when the brother and sister fucking banging each other? That was fucking weird. It's like, oh, they're not brother and sister. Oh, okay.
I mean, it was French. It was a French comic. I just made assumptions.
French. I thought that was what it was all about. It's one of those ones where that's how it was. It's just I don't know what it was. It's just I think because like the eyes are gold too, so I don't know. It just gives them this weird like sickly kind of look, But I'm not saying that like I like the Adam Warlock character. As I said, that Rocket team and everything would be cool. I do think that you can't really sell because the average the downfall is if it was let's say it was an animated movie, you could sell that because you're selling it to like a direct audience. When you're selling a movie, you're selling it to such a broad audience that the average person would be like, just none of the main characters are in it. Because Rocket Raccoon, well, he's not a main character. He's like sort of a side supporting role character. If Peter's not in it, if Gamora's not in it, like I feel like the average person's going to be like, that's not the Guardians.
I would see it because
I would 100% say I personally thought it looked awesome. I'm like, dude, that right there, I want to see that movie next.
Rocket's my favorite character of the Guardians. Probably my favorite character.
And as long as Groot's there too, because that's another one too. We haven't even mentioned this. Groot. I'm glad they finally fixed Groot after all these in between movies since Guardians 1. Because it's kind of weird to think that Groot was only really good in Guardians of the Galaxy 1, because after that, then it's like they did all the novelty Groots where you're just kind of like, I just felt like it was like, when's he going to turn back to regular Groot again? Like I'm kind of, especially like the teen angsty Groot. That was the one who was like, oh, okay, let's deal with this now.
Well, I'll say this, like first, because technically I always thought of it as still, I guess it is still technically Groot, but he looks different. Because when you look at, I like the design of the first Groot the most.
Yeah.
And because even this Groot still looks kind of like if baby Groot grew up, because his eyes are still kind of bigger and all that. But apparently it's meant to be, no, that Groot died, but we took some of the plant and planted him, and this is a new Groot.
It's like a new seed, I guess.
So it doesn't have all the memories of the past Groot, and that's why his shape and face is kind of different. So I was hoping he's going to turn into something like the other Groot. But I do like how when he goes like Kaiju Groot, like, and this one it is kind of like, they're like, you know what? The whole thing with Groot in the first one is he's big and he's caring. He's a big, caring, quiet guy who's capable of violence when it needs to happen. That was his thing. And then everything else was novelty Groot for each movie until we get to this point. And this point, he's not as like we've kind of seen that before, but he almost kind of like, Groot, just be the MVP of the team. You know, like have like basically you're the new right hand man. You got to carry all the guns, and you're gonna have an awesome shootout with Star-Lord. And whenever there's an action scene, we know we can rely on you. He just basically becomes kind of like, yeah, we had all the silly, funny Groots. Now we're back to there's a couple of jokes, but it's not mostly humor by this point.
Well, the way I sort of pictured it in my mind is that, okay, Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy 1, that's like kind of in a sense like old wise Groot because he's been around for so long. That's why he's kind of long and lengthy. You know, he almost even looks like the trees from like Lord of the Rings and stuff. And I felt like this Groot here, it's like, this is almost like young buff. This is like Groot like in his like prime. Like he's like 25 years old. He's like a linebacker. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that's how I pictured him here. It's like he's young, but he's not as old as he was in that one. So that's why he's kind of buffer. His head's still a little bit small because it hasn't grown. He hasn't grown tall and wise Groot yet. He's just like badass, like action star Groot. And I love the way that he was in this. But finally, because it's like, okay, baby Groot, that's cute and all, and that's fun. I know that's there to sell fucking action figures and stuff, and that's cool. And like the teen angst Groot, like that's fine for like one joke, but when he's stuck around for way longer than he needed to, it's just like, can't he just like at one point, like I don't know, somebody throw some like Miracle Grow on him or something like that, and just get him back to normal?
Well, I assumed that what was going to happen, we had baby Groot in the second one, and I assumed something was going to happen where like a Deus Ex Machina moment where where he needs to suddenly like get big, like, and like a moment of desperation, he grows and gets big and becomes the Groot we know again. Then like, oh no, they're really stretching this shit out. They got how many different types of Groot action figures and stuffed animals you can get now because of this. So
yeah,
it's one of those
it was definitely a marketing ploy. It fits into that category. There's baby Groot, the baby Sonic thing, like, baby Yoda. Like people have realized now they got baby Rocket. Like I feel like people are just they're really like milking the baby like version. Baby Mario, baby Luigi.
Well, even baby Rocket though, it's just like baby Rocket's just a little raccoon. But at the same time though, like going back to Rocket's story again, when he goes into the room with the animals, like I like how the movie literally stops for a second, and I think James Gunn is pretty good at these. When the movie literally stops for a second, and he comes to the old room he was held in, he sees all the other baby raccoons, and he just kind of looks at them, and he realizes, holy shit, this is what I am. This is what I. Then he looks at it, and he realizes. That's why he keeps calling me a raccoon. I'm a fucking raccoon. And he doesn't say it, but he just looks at it. And then he opens the door for the first time. He has like a connection with something else that's him. Like something else. It's like one of his own species for the first time. And it crawls up and like touches his nose. And it has like this moment where he's like, we gotta save him. Like that moment, I'm not gonna lie, I got a little teary-eyed on that moment.
I feel like an alternative scene that would have been kind of hilarious there, but it's almost too complicated for the average person. But like he would have looked, and then when it said the description, it said Tanuki. They'd be like, Peter, in your fucking face! I'm not a raccoon, I'm a Tanuki. A Tanuki is a raccoon, you dumbass. That would have, like it would have obviously broken the moment they had there, but I felt like if you want a good joke right there where like Rocket does kind of do one, that would have been kind of a funny one. It totally, you have to switch everything around, but like you wouldn't just throw that line in there. But
that's like a phase 2 joke.
Yeah, it's like one of those ones where like, but like that's kind of it. Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, that is a fucking raccoon. It's a Japanese raccoon. They fly off their balls.
Oh yeah. Did you see that Miyazaki movie?
They'll change your life.
I'll say, like, I thought we were going back to the music for a second. I think one of my favorite scenes of the movie, and I heard some people complaining about this because it seemed like it was trying too hard to be cool and was trying to force a song. I can understand that, like, there's no reason to have the song other than Peter had his earbuds in. But I really like the Beastie Boys, like, corridor scene. Like, when
that's one of those where it's like that song's kind of getting so overused. But I will say it definitely did work there. It's just funny because it's like literally like Mario Brothers was like 3 weeks ago, and like there it is right there. Now Mario makes sense because they are in Brooklyn, so I mean, like, it totally does. This is one of those ones where, like, it doesn't have any logical sense, but I feel like it did work. And don't get me wrong, I mean, kind of hate to say Beastie Boys. Beastie Boys needs resurgence anyways because the children have forgotten Beastie Boys, and I think that if we put them back in movies, we can bring them back again. For years, for 80s, 90s, 2000s, the Beastie Boys was always hip. Everything like that. 2010s rolled around. Beastie Boys started to become lame with the kids.
Yeah, they got to bring them back. We got to bring them back.
Yeah, we got to bring them back. They're like Freddy Krueger, you know what I mean? We got to remember.
Play their songs in enough movies, they'll regain their strength.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, just go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying, yeah. I mean, it's one of those ones where it's like, yeah, it's like that's one of those songs you start to hear it a lot in movies, but I'm like, it does work in there.
Well, even that scene, I liked how, like, brutal that scene was. And sometimes when you have, like, we're gonna have an action scene, we're gonna have the song play in the background of this action scene or whatever, like, that can kind of go either way a lot of the time. But that one, just because even though it's not a super fast-paced song, just that dun 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 dun, like, it's just slowly kind of walking in, they're just matching, and, like, I don't know, this how they try to make it look like one long shot, and each Guardian gets a moment to, like, fuck someone up real badly.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I thought it was a pretty badass, like, action scene. Even when Peter was throwing all those things on there, I was like, is he gonna blow them all up? Because by this point in the movie, I'm like, I feel like there's been a lot of violence going on too. Like, shit. Oh, he just shocks him. Okay. He played it safe.
This is, I think, probably one of the most violent MCU movies, definitely.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because you just don't think it's like, oh, well, what's gonna be one of the more violent ones? Oh, it's Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah.
They literally kill a planet of, like, humanoid space creatures, like literally like a furry's fucking wet dream.
Yeah. There's even the part where, like, they're seeing, like, kids buying, like, there are things that they just flat out say it. There are things that were implied in previous movies. Like, there's the thing in, like, Iron Man 3 where, don't be wrong, I'm surprised they implied it, where, like, they imply the fake Mandarin, played by Ben Kingsley, is like having heroin nod-offs. Like, I'm surprised they imply it. They don't flat out say it, but they imply it. Where they flat out say, you got octopuses selling meth to kids. So it's like...
Yeah, and everything's 70s themed in this thing here. It's like that guy went down to Earth for, like, a couple months, be like, okay, I think I understand.
Yeah. I get it. Okay. Like, and everything just did have that weird, like, 70s suburbia kind of vibe to it. And, well, I guess that's also interesting because it says, like, okay, that was the last time he was at Earth. He's here now, so he's going off of his memories. So that's actually kind of an interesting, and how long it took to build up this society. And I also think, I hated the High Evolutionary. He's a piece of shit. Yeah. But at the same time, I think there is some interesting things about it, like the concept of a guy that, like, he runs a genetics company, and that's how he makes all his money. But outside of the borders of, like, not international, but intergalactic space law shit, that's where he goes and tries to make different societies to see what he can do and play God, since there's no law governing over him over there. So I just think that's kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah, no, I think he makes for a good villain. I think that's one of those ones. He gets the almost like one of the old school superhero villains is the mad scientist kind of one, Mm-hmm. And I think that one's just this guy out here, way out in deep space, just, like, doing his thing to try to perfect things, and it never works out perfectly. Even, like, when he creates that fucking mutant Ninja Turtle thing, and, like, Rocket sees him and the thing's, like, freaking out in there and so on like that, and then he just ignites it. So it's like, see, didn't fucking work out.
Yeah, like even that part.
Like, yeah, that's right, fucking Ninja Turtles. Fuck you. I killed you on screen.
or a deal to make a TMNT movie went bad with James Gunn. Like, here's what I really fucking think. I don't want to do your stupid fucking Turtles movie. I want to do 4 fucking Turtles, have the entire DC universe at my fingertips. Get fucked. Like, all right, James, shit.
Jesus, you didn't have to burn the turtle on the screen in front of children.
No, I did. They have to know.
So it's like one of those ones there. And of course, Rocket somehow has like the calculation, and that dude never can figure it out. He's like, damn it, that raccoon learned it in like 6 months. Like, but working at this for like 600 years.
That was, yeah. Well, that was an interesting, that whole thing, like just the idea of like how like you watch him be like a piece of shit, and then you see him kind of give just a little bit of kindness to Rocket, and it's going to go bad, but you see him give a little bit of kindness, and then when Rocket's able to figure something out, he's just like, no, you're not made for this world. You're a step. You look like you're put together with chubby fingered children. We can't let you be roaming around across perfection. And like, it's like, what the fuck? Just like the heartbreak on his face right there,
Well, it's weird because it's like you kept all like the Duke Nukem looking pigs out there that are like half cyborg, like aren't they the same thing? You know what I mean? Like,
I guess muscle's muscle, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I guess for guards, yeah. And then then you get to your weird furry world, which I guess if that's what you think perfection is furry world in the 70s.
That's where I'm like, yeah, well, how's that he says he knows it's not perfection, but the idea of like animal people and like 70s aesthetic, looking like the Brady Bunch. How's that? I mean, Brady Bunch, but still.
Like, it's like if I guess, Tarantino and Rob Zombie would be like, well, 70s perfection. That's where we always like to have our stuff at.
Yeah.
The best year of cinema.
No, but like, yeah. I really liked this flick, and I think this is like, because I know you can't talk about a Marvel movie without talking about the potential of the future of Marvel. That said, I appreciate that we were just able to watch this movie and not talk about like the 800 stingers or references implying the future of Marvel. Like, you're able just to kind of watch this, enjoy it, and like you can maybe speculate a little bit about like where's it going, but it's not like, okay, well, that character is actually from this comic and he's going to come back later, which I like, but after a while, it's after every movie it starts to build up and get a little old.
Well, it's kind of nice that it is sort of just a bottle film of like, it's just Guardians. I mean, Thor doesn't show up in it. There's no other, it's just Guardians. And I thought that was actually kind of almost like the better way to sort of go about it. It's just, that's it. And let's just kind of keep it at that. We'll go there. Even at the end credits and something like that, they're still Guardians. It's not like, oh, here's somebody else walking in here or something like that. I kind of felt like I give it credit there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I appreciate that about it too. And the whole thing with because I feel like Phase 4, I think Phase 4 probably is, even though it has Spider-Man No Way Home and Black Panther 2, I think Phase 4 was definitely the weakest of the phases, in my opinion, just because they range from like, oh, it was fun to it was okay.
And I think this period's supposed to be kind of a lull period. Like, everybody always, that's what I hear. Everybody's always like, oh, it's just these movies are just coming out, they're just not that good. I'm like, I think they're just supposed to be, they're almost like intentionally supposed to be kind of just like these like sort of forget, and then I feel like they're going to start bringing them back up. And maybe this is probably about the time when they start revving them back up, because you had Black Panther that was really good. I mean, I even liked the Ant-Man 3. I mean, and then you have this one here, so I feel like they're starting to sort of rev their way back up.
The next one is the Marvels.
Yeah, there's the Miss Marvel one that actually. That because I saw that trailer for the first time. There was a bunch of new trailers I saw, and that looked pretty good. And I liked how, like, I mean, I didn't see the Miss Marvel or any. I apparently learned that a lot of those characters all appeared in all the TV shows. Once again, I'll know nothing of this, but all I did is when I saw that trailer, I was like, oh, that's actually really cool, because you have original Miss Marvel, then you have 70s Black Miss Marvel, and then you have Kamala, like the Pakistani Miss Marvel. And I thought like that was kind of a cool way to have all of them in one movie together. And I felt like, I'm like, that's actually a cool kind of team up. I was kind of impressed with that.
Yeah, the Photon, Monica Rambeau, she was the little girl actually in Captain Marvel in the first one. She was a little girl.
Oh,
and
is this? I only saw that movie once, so I kind of, now that you mention it, I remember that part.
and when they come into WandaVision, they mention her mom, Carol Danvers' best friend, died of cancer while she was because she got blipped away. She got blipped away in the Thanos snap, and then she came back and she holds a little of a grudge against Captain Marvel because she went away in that time and she was in WandaVision. Mm-hmm. So Monica Rambeau was in WandaVision.
Yeah.
So she kind of holds a little bit of a grudge, like, you're the best friend of my mom, but you where were you all these years, kind of thing. So they didn't see each other yet. They haven't seen each other yet, but that was kind of like her vibe when Captain Marvel was brought up. And then somehow in WandaVision, I don't remember how exactly. I think after encountering Vision, like the new White Vision or whatever, something happens to where she gets similar powers to Captain Marvel. So now I guess this is the movie where all three of them are coming together. And Miss Marvel had her own show. So
yeah, Miss Marvel. Well, that was one of those characters. I didn't know anything about that character, but like in that Avengers game that came out like right before the Guardians of the Galaxy one, she was kind of like, in a sense, like your, I guess,
starter character,
kind of like the main character. What do you want to call it? Like you're almost your avatar character to the world. Oh, you played as everybody, but like she was kind of like the gateway character in, and then you found the other Marvel characters. And I was like, as one of those characters, I've seen that character, but I've never read a book or anything. And I was like, that's actually kind of a cool character, and I liked her backstory, and I liked everything about it. And I was like, so I feel like that was a fun one. They have even like the TV show. Even though I never watched TV shows, so I never seemed to have time to watch that kind of stuff. I felt like that was like that's kind of an interesting one. I wish that was a movie because I wouldn't mind seeing more on that character. So I think now that there is a movie that's got her in, I'm like, okay, there we go. They solve all my problems.
Well, I'll say this: a lot of the Marvel shows, like there's been no Marvel show that's been flat out bad, but majority of them have felt kind of like how do I put this?
Extended movies. Like they could have been a 2-hour movie, but they went to 10 hours of a show.
WandaVision made sense as a TV show because most of each episode is a different era of a sitcom. So that makes sense. Loki worked out as a TV show. It could have been a movie, but it worked out as a show. And even though I really liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it was a good show. And I was engaged the whole time, and I was really enjoying it. I like what they do with the characters. But at the same time, I was also thinking, like, you could have probably wrapped this up in a 2.5-hour movie. Same thing with Moon Knight. Same thing with Hawkeye. Like, all good shows, they just feel like they could have been, like, a movie, in all honesty. Like, there was, like, the story was not so, like, expansive or like, needed that much deep dive in to get into it. Like because even Moon Knight, there's like it's really good, but then they get to like a point where they get to like a temple in Egypt, and then they spend like most of this episode trying to figure out puzzles to get to the temple, and they're getting away from like a zombie or something that's chasing them down. And it's like, if this was a movie, this part would have been a lot shorter. We could have got the chase a bit quicker. So
yeah, God, that's always like one of the main reasons I just don't like to watch TV very often, is because it's like they almost get that point, like, where can we save money on our budget? Okay, just keep them here for like 5 episodes. And I think that's what's always it. It's like, like that's like one of those ones like that technically wouldn't even happen in a comic book. That wouldn't happen, in a movie, of course, because you would just get past it real quick. It's like, I feel like the way that TV show needs to work best, I know it's not the cheapest way to do it, of course, but is that every episode should be like a continuing journey, like an anime or something like that, where like, you're always going somewhere. You're always going somewhere new. You're not just stuck, somewhere like, it's like, I don't know, Pokemon in mind. Pokemon, you're on a journey. You're gonna be a new place every single time. If Pokemon was a live action TV show, they would be in Pallet Town for like 10 episodes. You know what I mean? Like they would milk that set.
they would like, hey, before we leave Pallet Town, we need you to go out and prove how good of a trainer you are. You got to go and capture like a Rattata, basically be Arceus, but like in the form of a show. Go out, capture 5 Rattatas, and that gives you time to bond with this character right here. And then after that, like, oh, what's this? You stumbled across. Be fair, the show as it went on became full of filler. Like, we got to teach this Clefairy how to sing or whatever the fuck, or like
I'm not saying there's not, but at least they're always in a new location. I'll give them more of that credit.
No, it would be like 5 seasons. It'd be like a whole season before, like, okay, now on to get our first badge. But first, oh no, a forest with bugs.
See, and this is where me and Wes via VHS were watching the Young Indiana Jones show that we always wanted to watch my entire life, just never could afford that stupid expensive VHS set at like Suncoast and then the DVDs and so on. So now finally watching that, and that show. Now, granted, it comes with George Lucas's biggest movie maker budget you can possibly have, so he can kind of pay for whatever he wants. But that one, every single episode is literally Indy's in someplace else in the world. It's like where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? It's like where in the world is Indiana Jones in like the 1910s? So the fact is that show is never like, he's never stuck in one place. He's always somewhere. I mean, he's like Forrest Gumping himself around the world because he's always meeting some historical figure and something like that. But like, every episode he's in like a completely different part of the world almost, or something like that. And it's never like the same thing just over and over, other than maybe Indy banging some new lady in each episode. But
you're watching CBS, just like pants at the just opening shot, just pants down at the ankles, like in a bathroom stall. Like, fuck yes.
Well, for like literally like the last 8 episodes, it's just been like Indy like on a bang spree. Like he's just like finding all kinds of, like, every episode is just somebody new, and even gets himself where he's banging.
I love the pull. Yes.
There's even like one episode he's like I'm banging 3 girls at once, but I don't want to say no to any of them. So it's like,
burn me a steak if I say no, or shit, they'll think I'm.
It's like what's he's like, well, what's so hard about that? Well, have you ever tried to go out to dinner with have 3 dinners in a row because you don't want to say no?
Wait, does it do like the sitcom thing in like an episode where he just like 1 second just like changes his clothing and just runs over like some Miss Doubtfire shit and sits
pretty
down
much that's really it. And then Lay's like, here, have some more chili dogs. Oh, I don't know, I just had a steak dinner before this, and then I gotta go visit my actress friend now. Oh God.
just that's where George's like, look, I'm gonna like swing some way here. Not only am I gonna swing like, hey, I'm George, you know what the fuck I did? I'm also gonna bring in some industrial light and magic shit. Literally, he's gonna shit his pants on his way over. Like, George, I think you're mad with power. Like, shut the fuck up. I'm George fucking Lucas. I know what I want, and I know what I want to see on this fucking screen.
Exactly.
I want him fucking falling out of his pants sleeve as he's running down like shit. Like, it's Indiana Jones. Yeah, I know. Like, why? We all got to start somewhere. You never been in this situation? Like, no, George, I haven't. Well, fuck, you haven't lived. Shit got crazy in Modesto.
Yeah, exactly. Shit, you must have not had a good car when you were growing up. The latest part is.
He has it easy. He just has to like run from like one side of the street to the other. I had to like get in my fucking like my fucking like Shelby and haul ass across town.
Yeah, exactly, one of those ones. But yeah, that's what I love about this Indiana Jones thing, is it's like everything's always a different place every single time, and I wish more shows were like that. I think that's why like a lot of shows just nowadays is like when they get stuck in one place, it's like there's no adventure or something like that, you know what I mean? Or it's like even why like even like older shows like Xena and Hercules, and I brought that up already, but like they're always in somewhere different. They never just like hang out. They're always on some new quest or something or another. But yeah, getting into that Marvel stuff there, coming back and whatnot, I'm glad there's a Miss Marvel movie coming out that's like, so I don't have to watch those TV shows. I can just go, okay, there you go. There's all those Miss Marvel characters put together in one. And they're Miss Marvel. Yeah. Captain Marvel is a fucking DC character that's originally another company's character.
You'll be watching that and you'll be like, if there's something you don't know, like, oh, I didn't watch the show, so okay. You're at that point where
that's just how it is. I just like some stuff is like Kevin Bacon's just in the credits for some reason. Don't know why. Boy, I thought Nathan Fillion was underused in Stallone. Kevin Bacon seems really underused. His picture's only in the credits, along with Bruce Springsteen like being like the second song. I'll only say this: it's a Marvel movie, so we know that everybody's sitting there to listen to the Bruce Springsteen song. If it was any other movie, the second song in the credits means that nobody ever heard your song, probably.
Yeah, we're gonna learn these kids some Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah. So there's that, but no, I thought, as I said, I feel like even the more we talk about Guardians 3, I actually even like it even more. Like the more that I kind of think about it, like one of those ones. I mean, I walked out of it, I was like, oh yeah, it's solid, I enjoyed it, something like that. But the more I talk about, I'm like, no, that one's pretty darn good. It's fun all the way through. I'm glad they got all the characters dialed in. I mean, that's the thing is like it's one of those lists where it's like I like all the characters, like every single one of them. I mean, I like pretty darn close to equal. Of course, I have my favorites, but I mean, I like Drax a lot. I like Mantis a lot. I like Gamora a lot. All those ones I think are all really cool. Even all the side ones are kind of interesting ones too. Like I can't remember like all their names, but like those characters like
and Cosmo.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, Cosmo and all that stuff. Though I think Cosmo shouldn't talk. I feel like that seems weird. Like that was about the other things. I felt like I kind of liked when Cosmo
Borat's
didn't.
daughter.
Yeah. It's like one of those ones. It's not bad, but I felt like it was a little bit like it was like I don't know. Like sort of like it's like. Seemed more interesting when the dog just has that psychic abilities. I mean, I don't know. I guess the dog talks and a boy and his dog, and
it's in the comics, so that's what they're just going off of.
Yeah. So, but yeah, all that stuff is kind of interesting and so on like that there, and it'll be where they're going to take these Guardian characters next and so on. It leaves it very open. Like it's not like let's close the door on this. It's not like we killed Iron Man and made Captain America old. It's not like one of those ones where it's like I don't give a fuck if he's old. Put the shield back in his fucking hands. Send him back out there. Bring in Uncle Sam. If Uncle Sam tells him to go back out, he has to. That's his weakness. That's his kryptonite.
Here, look, we got him a wheelchair with some shield like vibranium hubs. Okay, look at that. Isn't that cool? Like ding ding.
It's like an Ozzy Osbourne
some rotating
concert,
rims that are the Captain America shield. There you go.
As long as we can keep wheeling him out there on stage, everybody's gonna keep showing up. That's what they want.
I mean, I think they'll say that. I think as far as like solid. I think that Marvel MCU has a couple of solid trilogies by now, and I think that's the Captain America movies, the Spider-Man movies, and Guardians. I think those three franchises all have a really solid trilogy within them. And then which I'm the weird one. Like I really like all the Avengers movies, but Infinity War is my least favorite one, and everyone's just like Infinity War.
And my favorite one's the second one. That's the one I like the most.
My most favorite's Endgame, but second is the second one. I really like Age of Ultron, and that's the one people are like, Age of Ultron. We're like, yeah, that's like one of my favorite.
I literally, I probably would say that's almost my top 5 favorite of those. Like ones, it's like Winter Soldier, Age of Ultron, Guardians of the Galaxy. Like those are the ones I really like gravitated towards.
Yeah, like Guardians, No Way Home. Like Endgame, they got a lot in like Winter Soldier, of course, but no real set list, just randomly off the top of my head. But yeah, no, this was a really good movie, and I think you could just kind of like, if they don't want to come back, then they don't have to come back for it. They could be retired if they want to. I think that's fine if they do decide to do that.
Well, because the kind of fun thing is there is those people out there go, oh man, like the Marvel's kind of getting to the end of their like rope or something like that. I'm like, actually, no, they haven't released their biggest fucking load yet. That's the thing, is that like these characters are all the minor characters, like in a weird way. X-Men has always been the bread and butter for like the longest time. / you still have Spider-Man young and prosperous, and you got the ever classic Fantastic Four. I mean, like I feel like it's one of those ones like Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Spider-Man. You could run for like 20 more years on those 3 alone.
Just you saying like, no, they just haven't reached their load yet. It's their biggest load. Like Kevin Feige's like, guys, I haven't jacked it for like two whole weeks.
I'm going tantric.
when we're ready to really talk about Spider-Man and Fantastic Four and X-Men, holy shit, clear the room. It's going to be ground zero.
Because I just hate to sort of say it, like literally X-Men alone is just as many big characters as every single Marvel character they've done so far. Like that's the thing about X-Men. Is X-Men, that's why a lot of times I always have a hard time even putting it in the same, section as other Marvel stuff, because X-Men's already so massively huge as is. It almost feels like it's like it could be like, there's DC, there's Marvel, and then there's X-Men. Like it almost is like that big of a branch.
Well, I mean, we won't know till it happens, and sometimes some of this shit comes out and things change because box offices or a pandemic or any number of things. Mm-hmm. But and plus the guy Anthony Majors, I'm not sure, he may have gotten fired from being Kang, So who knows what direction they're going to go with, or if they're just going to change the way he looks or something.
Just get a raccoon to come by and scratch his face off and put a new one on.
Yeah, it's just that's to every universe. So it happens in every universe. No, like so
that's their Flashpoint paradox. It's the Rocket paradox.
There's a apparently they're gonna do they're doing a big they've already announced, because they don't want to do as long-winded 10-year series like they did before. They want to make it more shorter and to the point. Secret Wars, Avengers, Secret. There's like two. They showed like a slate, and there's a bunch of blank spots. In the very end of the slate, there's like 2 Avenger movies, and I think the last one is like Secret Wars. So, and I think something in Secret Wars or in something in one of those is one of the reset points in the comics. So people think what's going to happen is this is going to be like they're going to finish this one off and then reset everything, and maybe some characters will stay, some characters go away. Because at the end of the Infinity Gauntlet series, that's what initially that was one of those hard reboots where everything was leading up to this point and they restarted it again. So.
Yeah, so there's I mean, that's not out of the question either or something there. But as I said, like literally, because in a sense, Spider-Man's really only barely started as far as like this version of Spider-Man. Like, because all the previous stuff he's in, he's more just like a slight side Avengers character. He hasn't really had Spider-Man stuff for the most part. So I feel like he's starting off. You got the X-Men. You still haven't even touched the Fantastic Four other than like that little cameo in Doctor Strange 2. Like, there's still a whole lot that's gonna come down.
Well, the thing about Spider-Man, and don't get me wrong, I really like I love Spider-Verse. I'm really looking forward to Across the Spider-Verse, and I love all the MCU Spider-Man movies. That said, you got a fucking wild card there. You don't know what the fuck they're gonna do. You got Sony sitting there like, whoa, we can't do that just yet because we got a Kraven the Hunter movie, and we got a movie about a Spider-Man villain who is from like the 70s, and he was in two issues, and his whole thing is he's a DJ and he does music. But hey, we got Donald Glover playing him, so therefore it legitimizes itself to exist. So you got like, and then they got Bad Bunny being like they got a movie for a Spider-Man villain where Bad Bunny is the star, and he's like a villain who's only like in 2 issues, and he's like a lucha libre wrestler. And so it's one of those things where it's just like
what is this, Japan? Like they're like what's a Mexican to you? Lucha libre? Like what are there is there anything else over there? Like
Bad Bunny? Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, he must be a real good lucha libre. No, he's actually, that's not what he does. I always just
even know if he's Mexican. I don't know if he's Mexican.
No, well, he is. I mean, I'll say this. He was in Bullet Train.
He was good.
And he was good in that. So I'm not opposed to that, whoever he's playing. But
it's more of like, does that character who popped in 2 books need like a
full movie?
Yeah.
That's always kind of the problem. Is I'm actually going to say this is like, did you see that Blue Beetle trailer? Because I saw that pop up on there. Like,
I saw that.
It felt like Warner Brothers was like, go hard on that Guardians one. Like, put some money down and put our trailers in there. And I was like, it looked interesting, but I hate to sort of say it had that same thing too. Like, that looked like that would be a great movie for 2006. But it's just like, I hope there's more to it. It just had that same thing, like, whoa, I got superpowers. Whoa, I can do this. Oh God, it's dangerous. Woo! Like, and I was just like, I want to like it, but I'm like, it's one of those ones. Like, sometimes now I feel like, can we just get to the point where like the characters are they're already superheroes, and we don't need to see the goofy origin and him trying the powers out for the first time. Like,
that's the teenager getting the superpowers is kind of a subgenre within superheroes now.
It really is, and it's over around. It's like Blue Beetle. It's like I was excited about that. I think that's a cool character. He's always kind of been one of those back burner DC's ones that you see once in a blue moon, but it's actually still surprising he's actually getting his own movie. It's like, if you're gonna spend money, I'm surprised that is it. But it's like, he's one of those characters. I hate to start saying it. He could almost probably just appear in anybody else's movie, and that would probably be fine on its own. I'm not saying maybe it's going to be great. I'm not, but I kind of hate that. I have that feeling it's going to have that feeling like it's going to be old school. It's an origin movie. He'll get his costume halfway into it. There'll be one villain.
Here's the thing. I'll say this. We'll wrap it up here soon. I like Blue Beetle. I think he warrants a movie by this point. That said, that trailer didn't look god awful or anything, but it looked, because like all the effects look cool. And
No, yeah, it doesn't look
cool,
bad.
But it looks like I feel like I've seen that between Shazam and Spider-Man No Way Home and a lot of other like. There's other ones that I'm drawing a blank on where it's like a teenager learning the superpowers.
I mean, literally Spider-Man 2001. Like, I mean,
well, I was like a 35-year-old man. Like I'm in high school, so like,
you suspension of disbelief and so on. Just saying, like, it's that thing that like I just feel like that was the one that, you know, through the 2000s it was fine to kind of have that kind of movie. I feel like once we got past the 2000s, and we're literally past the 2010s, and we're still kind of falling on that easy origin story movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll say that I thought there was enough differences about, say, like even like Spider-Man No Way Home and Spider-Man Homecoming, just because Tom Holland, he wasn't, but he looked a lot like a teenager, and it was like a more grounded MCU movie and more grounded Spider-Man that we've seen before, and it felt like it was coming at things from a different angle, and he's being mentored. There was just a lot of things.
Well, and he was already established, previously in movies. So
yeah, we didn't need to see him learn his powers and all that. And then Shazam, it's a little bit more of like, well, this is what a kid today would do if he got powers. He would make YouTube videos and he would do this kind of shit. And this one, it just looks more of like kind of that, but I mean, it could be good. I'm hoping it's good.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, as I said, I'm not saying it doesn't look cool or anything. I'm just saying it does feel kind of, I don't know. I almost feel like I kind of wish you would have more. It's kind of like, you know, I'm just looking at some of those ones like the DC ones. It's kind of like I saw the new Flash trailer as well too, which the new Flash trailer is just shit. It's like out of the way, Flash, bat signal, bat signal, bat signal. Oh yeah, it's a Flash movie, by the way. like that. It's like 89 Batman, you know, whatever. Like 2012 Batman, Superman, Man of Steel, yeah. Oh yeah,
and Shazam, or it's Flash. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, like I just feel like it's like at that point where the one that I just hope of that movie, I just hope it's not a Batman v Superman thing where I'm seeing everything already. I really hope that they're gonna have some surprises in that movie, because that's the only thing is I see all that and go, God, is that the whole movie though? Is that the whole movie in that trailer?
The movie already played at CinemaCon, and they say that there is some surprises. They have not dropped in any of the trailers yet, but you've already seen most of the movie. There is some surprises, but you've seen most of the movie.
That's what I kind of fear for. It still looks good, you know, and let's be honest, it's barely even a Flash movie anymore. It's like literally Flash just happens to be the main character, but it's like so much so like Batman just, you know, putting his, you know, bat cowl in the way.
I'm irritated because they revealed kind of like, I mean, I could have saw it coming, but and I won't tell you, but like I follow McFarlane Toys on Instagram, and they have like a line for the Flash movie coming out, and they revealed a figure. I'm like, why the fuck would you show that before the movie's even? It's going to be a month before the movie's out, and you show this. Couldn't this have been a wave 2 right here? God damn it.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. People just don't know how to properly advertise anymore. I don't know why it is. It's like it shouldn't be that hard. I mean, I know things are going to
sell some plastic, but fuck.
Things are going to leak, but it's like the thing when they just intentionally just put it out there is just so silly. It's just, you know.
And it's kind of like from looking at the figure, you can parse together what like. Well, I mean, you know who the character is. But you can parse together ideally how the character gets there from if you look at it. I'm like, Jesus Christ. So
yeah, I'm assuming it's not a Captain Cold figure.
No, it's not Captain Cold. God forbid you have a movie called The Flash and you don't have Captain Cold or Mirror Master or fucking Boomerang or like Weather Wizard or someone.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing about that Flash one.
Fuck Top. I'll take Top. Shit.
Yeah, it looks cool, but it's not a. I kind of hate to say it's not a Flash movie. It's like can you really call it a Flash movie if he doesn't really have his villains in it? You know.
I heard Golden Glider might be in it, but I bet if it is, it's probably they're stopping her from robbing a bank at the beginning. If it's anything, it's probably something like that.
It just shows her gliding, and then she just gets caught like in a windmill or something like that instead.
Like, oh, good. Like Batman just like, get down here, bitch. And then just brings her down.
Slams her down. This is as hard as all can.
But Batman, Flash is like, oh, sorry, I didn't get here in time. Bat's like, Barry, you got to get on top of your shit. You know, just gets on the bike, runs her over, just
puts the wheel on her, and just starts revving it.
It's Ben Affleck Batman, so he very well might do that.
He's like, hey, it's not Gotham, so it's okay. I can do this stuff. I'm out of my jurisdiction. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like I'm a father on vacation, unsupervised. And it's 1972.
Yeah.
But I mean, no matter what, there's all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, I'm looking forward to all these things. As I said, like Blue Beetle, I'm looking forward to. You know, of course, you know, Flash and all that stuff there, and Miss Marvel and all these other movies coming out. But it is that kind of one, though. It's just like sometimes with some of those ones, I just wish there was more secrets in life. You know what I mean? Like superheroes are supposed to be fulfilled with secrets and all kinds of hidden stuff and espionage, but it just sometimes doesn't seem like it.
Well, we'll get there. I mean, you know, this is all leading into this Flash movie is also going to lead into the reboot for DC Universe. So we'll see what we end up with after that.
So I think that will be the interesting part of seeing how that kind of all comes together. But yeah,
that's like a month away or so, right?
Yeah, it's literally it's June. It's like, and that's also when Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny comes out, which
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So a lot of shit that month.
Yeah, so it's like it's a good time of all kinds of movies and so on like that. So looking forward to it. Fun times ahead. But yeah. If anything, check out Guardians of the Galaxy 3. If you haven't played the video game like Ryan, I think you got to go check that out. That one's, I highly recommend him. Yeah, I mean, I remember I told that to Buddy, and Buddy said like he went out and checked it out, and he's like, man, that game was fantastic. You know, it's got all the twists and turns. I'll say, I think the storytelling in it's like top notch. You know what I mean? I'll say it's better than a movie. Like that's, I mean, it's a video game, so it's kind of easier to say that, but like it's dialed in. It's like the Avengers one. The Avengers game was super good too. But
we'll have to check that one out. Yeah,
cool things to have. Go do that. Go to oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, comic books like Pizza Boys, old animations, and all that other fun stuff. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.